The rain drummed against the windows of the small thrift store as Hyunwoo pushed through the heavy glass door. A bell jingled above his head, and the smell of old clothes and dust filled his nose. He shook the water from his black hair and looked around the cramped shop. Mrs. Lee sat behind the counter, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked up from her newspaper and smiled at the teenage boy. She had run this little store in Hongdae for 30 years and knew most of her regular customers by name. "Good afternoon, Hyunwoo," she said in her warm voice. "Looking for something special today?" Hyunwoo nodded and pulled out his phone to check his messages. His best friend Jimin had sent him a photo of a vintage leather jacket he found online. The price was too high for a high school student like Hyunwoo, but maybe he could find something similar here. "I need a jacket for school," he said, stuffing his phone back in his pocket. "Something that looks cool but does not cost too much money." Mrs. Lee laughed and pointed toward the back corner of the store. "Check the men's section. I got some new items yesterday. Someone cleaned out their grandfather's old storage room and brought me boxes of clothes." Hyunwoo made his way through the narrow aisles between packed clothing racks. The store was bigger than it looked from outside, with clothes hanging from every available space. He passed old suits, faded t-shirts, and worn shoes before reaching the jacket section. Most of the jackets looked too old or too big for him. He was about to give up when something caught his eye. Hanging at the very end of the rack was a jacket unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked like leather, but the material seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light. The color was deep, brown, almost black, with strange geometric patterns running along the sleeves and chest. Metal clasps replaced normal buttons, and they looked far too advanced for any jacket he had seen before. Hyunwoo reached out and touched the material. It felt impossibly soft and light, like touching air. The geometric patterns seemed to shift, slightly under his fingers, though he told himself it was just his imagination. "This one is interesting," he said to himself. He lifted the jacket from the rack and held it up to his chest. It looked like it would fit him perfectly. The metal clasps caught the light and seemed to glow with a faint blue color. Hyunwoo blinked and looked again, but they appeared normal now. Mrs. Lee appeared beside him, moving quietly despite her age. "Ah, you found the strange one," she said with a curious expression. "That came from the storage room I mentioned. The man who brought it said his grandfather was some kind of collector." "A collector of what?" Hyunwoo asked, still examining the jacket. Mrs. Lee shrugged. "He did not say, just that his grandfather traveled a lot when he was young and brought back unusual things from different places. The man wanted to get rid of everything quickly." Hyunwoo turned the jacket over in his hands. The inside was lined with a material that looked like silk but felt different. There were small pockets sewn into the lining, and what looked like thin wires running through the fabric. "How much does it cost?" he asked. Mrs. Lee thought for a moment. "For you, 20,000 won. The man said he just wanted it gone, so I can sell it cheap." 20,000 won was perfect for Hyunwoo's budget. He had been saving money from his part-time job at a convenience store, and this jacket was exactly what he needed. "I will take it," he said quickly before Mrs. Lee could change her mind. At the counter, Mrs. Lee wrapped the jacket in old newspaper while Hyunwoo counted out the money. The rain had stopped, and afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows. "That jacket has been here for 3 months, Mrs. Lee said as she handed him the package. "You are the first person to show any interest in it. Most people think it looks too strange." Hyunwoo thanked her and headed for the door. Outside, the Eaon streets of Hongdae were busy with students and office workers. He decided to try on the jacket right away instead of waiting until he got home. He found a quiet alley between 2 buildings and unwrapped the jacket. Up close, the geometric patterns looked even more detailed. They formed complex designs that seemed to tell a story, though Hyunwoo could not understand what it meant. He slipped his arms into the sleeves and pulled the jacket over his shoulders. It fit him perfectly, as if it had been made just for him. The material was warm but not too warm, and incredibly comfortable. As soon as he fastened the first metal clasp, something unexpected happened. Thin lines of blue light appeared along the sleeves following the geometric patterns. Hyunwoo jumped and tried to pull the jacket off, but the lines faded quickly. He stood still for a moment, wondering if he had imagined it. He fastened the second clasp, and this time he was ready. The blue lines appeared again, brighter this time, and small symbols flickered to life on the cuffs. They looked like writing, but not in any language Hyunwoo recognized. His heart began to beat faster, and the jacket seemed to respond. It grew, slightly warmer, and adjusted its fit, becoming even more comfortable. The symbols on the cuffs pulsed gently, matching his heartbeat. Hyunwoo looked around the empty alley, making sure no one could see him. He fastened the third and final clasp. The jacket came fully alive. Blue light raced along every pattern and seam. The symbols on the cuffs became clear and bright, joined by new ones that appeared on the chest and back. A soft humming sound came from somewhere inside the jacket, too quiet for anyone else to hear. Most amazing of all, Hyunwoo could somehow understand what the symbols meant. They were not words exactly, but concepts that appeared directly in his mind. Status indicators, power levels, system diagnostics. The jacket was not just clothing. It was some kind of advanced technology, far beyond anything he had ever seen. Hyunwoo stood in the alley for several minutes, watching the lights pulse and the symbols change. Finally, he unfastened the clasps one by one. The lights faded, and the jacket returned to looking like normal, if unusual, clothing. He wrapped it carefully in the newspaper and started walking home, his mind racing with questions. Where had this jacket come from? What was it really? And why did it seem to recognize him? As he walked through the busy streets, Hyunwoo did not notice the small device that had activated deep inside the jacket's lining, a device that had just sent a signal across impossible distances, reaching ears that had been waiting nearly 3,000 years to hear it again. 3 days after buying the jacket, Hyunwoo sat in his cousin's small apartment watching Raewon work at his computer. The older boy was 22 and studied computer science at Seoul National University. If anyone could figure out the jacket's secrets, it would be him. This is incredible, Raewon said, adjusting his thick glasses. He had connected several cables to the jacket's metal clasps, and his computer screen showed streams of data. The processing power in this thing is beyond anything I have ever seen. Hyunwoo sat on the couch wearing the jacket. The blue lights were active again, and new symbols appeared every few seconds on the sleeves. Some looked like maps, others like technical diagrams. Can you understand any of it? Hyunwoo asked. Raewon shook his head. The language is completely unknown, but look at this. He pointed to his screen, where a three-dimensional image was, slowly forming. The jacket is projecting some kind of holographic memory. The image became clearer. It showed a tall man in the same jacket, but his looked different, battle-worn and modified with additional equipment. The man had dark hair and strong features, and he moved with the confidence of a trained fighter. Who is he? Hyunwoo whispered. As if responding to his question, symbols appeared above the holographic figure. Slowly, Hyunwoo began to understand them. The jacket was teaching him to read its language. Marcus Chen, he said aloud. That was his name. The hologram showed Marcus fighting in what looked like a space station. He moved with incredible speed and skill, the jacket protecting him from energy weapons and giving him enhanced strength. Other figures fought beside him, some human, others clearly alien. This is like a movie, Raewon said, staring at the projection. But the technology is real. Where did you say you bought this? Before Hyunwoo could answer, the jacket suddenly grew warm. The symbols on the sleeves turned from blue to red, and a new word appeared in his mind. Warning. Something is wrong, he said, standing up quickly. The apartment's lights flickered. Outside, car alarms began going off. Raewon's computer screen filled with static, and the holographic projection disappeared. What is happening? Raewon asked, but Hyunwoo was already moving toward the window. A shadow passed over the building, too big and too fast to be an airplane. The shadow was followed by a low humming sound that made the windows vibrate. We need to get out of here, Hyunwoo said. The jacket was sending him feelings of danger, urging him to run. They grabbed their things and headed for the door. In the hallway, other residents were looking out their windows and talking in worried voices. The building's power went out, leaving them in darkness. Hyunwoo and Raewon ran down the stairs, guided by the jacket's glowing symbols. Outside, people were pointing at the sky. A large, dark ship hovered above the city, its shape unlike any human aircraft. "This is not possible," Raywan said, his voice shaking. The ship lowered toward the ground and smaller craft detached from it. They looked like metal teardrops and moved with deadly grace. One of them was heading straight for Raywan's building. "Run," Hyunwoo said, pulling his cousin toward the street. They had not gone far when the smaller craft landed behind them. A door opened with a hiss and something stepped out. It walked on two legs like a human, but its skin was covered in green scales and its head was elongated like a lizard's. It wore black armor and carried a weapon that crackled with energy. The creature looked directly at Hyunwoo and spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "Return what you have taken, human child." Hyunwoo did not understand the words, but the jacket translated them in his mind. The creature wanted the jacket back. "I bought it from a store," Hyunwoo said, backing away. "I did not steal anything." The creature raised its weapon. "The armor of Marcus Chen belongs to the Vextar clan. My ancestor killed him in honorable combat. You will surrender it now." More people were running and screaming as other creatures emerged from their ships. But this one, the leader, focused only on Hyunwoo. "I do not understand," Hyunwoo said. "Who is Marcus Chen? What is this armor?" The creature's eyes narrowed. "You wear the armor of the greatest human warrior who ever lived. He led the rebellion that freed a dozen worlds from the Empire. His armor has been lost for 3,000 years. The jacket suddenly became very warm, and Hyunwoo felt strength flowing into his muscles. His reflexes became faster, his vision clearer. Information flooded his mind about combat techniques and tactical strategies. The creature fired its weapon. Hyunwoo moved without thinking, dodging the energy blast with inhuman speed. The jacket's systems were guiding his movements, just as they had guided Marcus Chen centuries ago. "Impossible," the creature hissed. "The armor chooses its own master." Hyunwoo did not understand what was happening to him, but he knew he had to protect Raywan and the other people around them. The jacket was giving him knowledge and power, but it was up to him to use them. He ducked behind a parked car as more energy blasts lit up the street. The creature was talking into a communication device, calling for backup. "Raywan," Hyunwoo called to his cousin, who was hiding behind another car. "Get to the subway station. Find somewhere safe." "What about you?" Raywan shouted back. Hyunwoo looked at the symbols glowing on his sleeves. More creatures were approaching, but the jacket was showing him their weaknesses and the best ways to fight them. "I think this armor chose me for a reason," he said. "I need to figure out what that reason is." The jacket's systems activated fully, and Hyunwoo felt Marcus Chen's 3,000 years of combat experience flowing into his mind. He was no longer just a high school student from Seoul. He was the inheritor of humanity's greatest warrior. The second phase of his journey was about to begin. High above the city, more ships were descending from the stars. Word was spreading across the galaxy that the armor of Marcus Chen had been found, and its new owner was human. The universe was about to remember why humanity had once been feared among the stars. Dr. So Young-han was working late in her office at Seoul National University when the first ships appeared in the sky. As the city's only xenoarchaeologist, she had spent years studying artifacts that most people thought were just ancient curiosities. She knew better. The moment she saw the alien vessels, she grabbed her emergency bag and headed for her car. She had been preparing for this day for 15 years. Her phone rang as she drove through the panicked streets. The caller ID showed a number she had memorized but never expected to see. "Elder Crix," she answered. "I assume you see what is happening." The voice that replied was old and tired but carried the weight of centuries. "The armor has awakened. Dr. Han, after all these years it has found a new guardian." "Where is the wearer now?" So Young asked, turning toward the district where the alien ships were concentrating their search. "Unknown. But we must find him before the hegemony arrives. If they discover that humans still exist, it will mean war." So Young had been one of the few humans who knew the truth. Earth was not the only world where humans lived. After the Great Wars thousands of years ago, survivors had scattered across the galaxy, hiding on distant planets. They had been building their strength, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. She found Hyunwoo 3 blocks from his cousin's apartment building. The teenager was crouched behind an overturned bus, the alien armor glowing softly. In the darkness, 2 of the lizard-like creatures lay unconscious nearby. "You must be the new guardian," So Young said, approaching carefully with her hands visible. Hyunwoo spun around, ready to fight, but the armor's systems identified her as human and harmless. "Who are you?" he asked. "How do you know about this?" "Armor? My name is Dr. Han. I have been waiting for this day for a very long time." She knelt beside him, examining the armor's active systems. "The jacket you are wearing belonged to Marcus Chen, the greatest human warrior in galactic history." "Everyone keeps saying that," Hyunwoo said. "But I do not understand. These aliens, they say humans are extinct." So Young smiled grimly. "That is what we wanted them to think. After the Liberation Wars, the surviving humans went into hiding. We spread across the galaxy, building colonies in secret, growing stronger. The armor projected a new hologram, showing Marcus Chen in his final battle. He was fighting on a space station surrounded by enemies. Even with the armor's power, he was outnumbered. The image showed him falling, the armor being taken as a trophy. "Marcus was my ancestor," So Young said quietly. "His real name was Chen, Marcus Essie. He was Korean, like us." Hyunwoo stared at her in shock. "Your ancestor?" "The Chen family has been guardians of human history for 3,000 years. We kept records, preserved technology, and waited for the armor to surface again." She touched one of the glowing symbols on his sleeve. "It was programmed to choose a new guardian when the time was right." A new voice spoke from the shadows. "The time is right because the galaxy is ready to burn again." They turned to see an elderly man approaching. He was tall and thin, with pale skin and eyes that seemed too large for his face. He was clearly not human. "Elder Crix," So Young said, standing to bow respectfully. Crix nodded to her, then studied Hyunwoo with intense curiosity. So young to carry such a burden, but the armor knows what it is doing. "What are you?" Hyunwoo asked. The armor was not marking Crix as a threat, but he was definitely not human. "I am one of the last of the Altai," Crix said. "My people were the first to be liberated by Marcus Chen and his human warriors. I was there when he fell in battle." Crix sat down heavily on a piece of rubble. "After the humans disappeared, the galaxy fell under the control of the hegemony. They rule through fear and oppression, just like the empire before them. But they have grown lazy and corrupt. More ships were arriving in the sky above Seoul. These were larger and more advanced than the ones that came first. Hegemony fleet," Crix said grimly. "They detected the armor's activation. They think it is just one human with an ancient weapon. They do not know the truth." "What truth?" Hyunwoo asked. So Young and Crix exchanged glances. "The armor is not just a weapon," So Young explained. "It is a communication device. When it fully activated, it sent a signal to every hidden human colony in the galaxy. They know we are still alive now," Crix added. "And they are coming." As if summoned by his words, new ships began appearing in Earth's sky. These were different from the alien vessels, sleeker, more advanced, and clearly built by human technology that had evolved over 3,000 years. The armor projected a communication interface, and a woman's voice spoke directly into Hyunwoo's mind. "Guardian, this is Admiral Tae-ho, Kang of the Hidden Fleet. We have been waiting for your signal. Are you ready to fulfill your destiny?" Hyunwoo looked at So Young and Crix, then at the alien ships that were preparing to attack his city. He thought about Mrs. Lee's little thrift store, about Raewon hiding in the subway, about all the innocent people who had no idea their world was about to change forever. "I am just a high school student," he said aloud. "I do not know how to be a warrior." The armor pulsed with warm light, and Marcus Chen's memories flowed through Hyunwoo's mind. He saw battles fought across a dozen worlds, impossible odds overcome through human determination and ingenuity. Marcus was just a young man too when he started. So Young said gently, "The armor will teach you, but more importantly, you have something he never lost, even in his darkest moments. What is that? Hope. The belief that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they have to. Above them, the first shots were fired between the human fleet and the hegemony ships. The Second Liberation War had begun. Hyunwoo stood up, feeling the armor's systems integrate fully with his nervous system. He was no longer just wearing the jacket. He was becoming one with it. "Admiral Kang," he said, speaking to the communication interface. "This is Guardian Hyunwoo. I am ready to fight." "Excellent," came the reply. "Welcome to the war, Guardian. Let us show the galaxy what humans can do." The armor's full power activated for the first time in 3,000 years. Hyunwoo felt stronger, faster, and more aware than he had ever been. But most importantly, he no longer felt alone. Somewhere among the stars, millions of humans were preparing to step out of the shadows. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had once been the most feared and respected warriors in known space. The age of hiding was over. The age of reclamation had begun. The battle above Seoul raged for 6 hours. Hyunwoo watched from the roof of a government building as human ships that had been hidden for centuries fought against the hegemony fleet. The armor fed him tactical information about every ship and weapon, but the scale of the conflict was overwhelming. Commander Soo-jin Yoo of the Korean military stood beside him, her uniform torn and her face streaked with dust. She had been skeptical when her soldiers first reported a teenager in glowing armor fighting alien invaders. Now she was a believer. "Your people fight well," she said, watching a human cruiser destroy 2 enemy vessels with precise shots. "They are your people too," Hyunwoo replied. The armor had been downloading more of Marcus Chen's memories, and with them came knowledge of humanity's true history. "Commander, what do you know about the Korean space program from 50 years ago?" Soo-jin frowned. "It was canceled. Budget problems and technical failures." "No," Hyunwoo said, the armor showing him classified files from half a century past. "It was a cover. Korean engineers helped build the first hidden colony ships. Some of your countrymen are out there among the stars." Before Soo-jin could respond, the armor detected incoming enemies. 3 hegemony dropships were heading straight for their position. "They want the armor," So-young said, running up to join them. She had been coordinating with Elder Crix to evacuate civilians. "The hegemony knows that whoever controls it controls the key to finding every human colony." "What key?" Hyunwoo asked, but the armor was already showing him the answer. Hidden in Marcus Chen's final memories was a complete map of the galaxy, showing the location of every human settlement established after the Liberation Wars. The armor had been programmed to protect this information at all costs. The dropships landed, and dozens of hegemony soldiers poured out. These were different from the lizard-like Vextar. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their weapons were more advanced, designed to disable rather than kill. "They want me alive," Hyunwoo realized. "Of course they do," Elder Crix said, appearing from a doorway. The old alien moved surprisingly fast for his age. "The armor will only reveal its secrets to its chosen guardian. If they kill you, the knowledge dies with you." The first wave of enemies reached the rooftop. Hyunwoo moved without thinking, the armor guiding his actions. He had been wearing it for less than a day, but Marcus Chen's 3,000 years of experience made him deadly. He dodged energy blasts and struck back with precision. The armor enhanced his strength and speed while protecting him from damage. But there were too many enemies, and more were coming. "Guardian," Admiral Kang's voice spoke in his mind. "We are detecting massive hegemony reinforcements. They are mobilizing their entire sector fleet." "How many ships?" Hyunwoo asked while fighting. "Over 2,000. They are treating this as, a full-scale invasion." Commander Soo-jin grabbed Hyunwoo's arm. 2,000 ships. Can your hidden fleet match that?" The armor calculated the odds and displayed them in Hyunwoo's vision. The human fleet numbered only 300 ships. They were more advanced than hegemony vessels, but the numbers were overwhelming. "We need help," Hyunwoo said. "Are there any other species that would fight alongside humans?" "Yes," Elder Crix said, deflecting an energy blast with a personal shield device. The collective. Dozens of species that the hegemony has oppressed. They have been waiting for someone to lead them in rebellion. The armor projected a new interface showing Hyunwoo how to access its deep communication systems. These were channels that Marcus Chen had used to coordinate with alien allies during the original Liberation Wars. Can you contact them? So Young asked. Hyunwoo nodded and activated the ancient protocols. The armor sent coded messages across the galaxy, using quantum channels that the hegemony could not detect or intercept. The response was immediate. Hundreds of alien species began sending replies, confirming that they were ready to fight if humanity would lead them again. This is incredible, Commander Sujin said, watching the messages appear on the armor's display. How many ships are they offering? Over 5,000, Hyunwoo said, barely believing the numbers himself. Species I have never heard of from systems across the galaxy. They have been preparing for this war for centuries. A new voice joined Admiral Kang's communication channel. It was young and female speaking accented English. Guardian, this is Ji-Hai Moon. I am requesting permission to land and assist you. Who is Ji-Hai Moon? Sujin asked. The armor identified. Her ship, a sleek fighter craft that was approaching the building. She is from the Kepler colony, Hyunwoo said, reading the data. One of the first human settlements established after the wars. Ji-Hai's ship landed on the rooftop with incredible precision. The pilot who emerged was a young woman about Hyunwoo's age, with short black hair and the confident bearing of someone trained for combat from childhood. I have been monitoring Earth for 3 years, she said, drawing an advanced weapon and joining the fight. My mission was to watch for any signs of ancient human technology surfacing. You have been here for 3 years? So Young asked, surprised. Hidden, in plain sight, Ji-Hai replied, firing at the approaching enemies with deadly accuracy. I was a transfer student at Seoul International School. I have been waiting for the armor to reveal itself. The battle was turning in their favor, but more hegemony ships were arriving in Earth's atmosphere. The armor showed Hyunwoo that they had less than an hour before the planet would be overwhelmed. Admiral Kang, he said into the communication system. How long until the collective fleets arrive? 12 hours minimum, came the reply. Can you hold that long? Hyunwoo looked around at his companions. Commander Sujin was coordinating with Korean military forces across the country. So Young and Elder Crix were setting up defensive positions. Ji-Hai was proving that 3 years of Earth life had not dulled her combat skills. We will hold, he said. Whatever it takes. The armor pulsed with approval and began unlocking more of its advanced systems. Weapons that Marcus Chen had never used. Defenses that had been held in reserve for the darkest moments. Guardian. The armor's AI spoke directly to his mind for the first time. I have been waiting 3,000 years for a guardian worthy of my full power. Are you ready to see what humanity is truly capable of? Hyunwoo looked up at the sky where thousands of enemy ships were gathering. In 12 hours, the largest space battle in galactic history would begin. The fate of every species in the galaxy would be decided by what happened next. Show me, he said. The armor's systems activated at maximum power, and Hyunwoo began to understand why the galaxy had once feared the name of humanity. The real war was about to begin. 12 hours later, Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of Admiral Kang's flagship, watching the largest fleet in galactic history prepare for battle. The armor had evolved during the night, integrating with the ship's systems and transforming him into something more than human. Admiral Kang was a stern woman in her 50s with gray streaking her black hair and scars that spoke of old battles. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. Guardian, she said, studying the tactical displays. The collective fleets have arrived. 63 species, over 8,000 ships. They are waiting for your command. Through the armor's enhanced senses, Hyunwoo could see the massive fleet spread across space around Earth. Ships of every size and design, representing species that had suffered under hegemony rule for centuries, all waiting for humanity to lead them into battle once more. And the enemy? He asked. The hegemony has committed everything, Admiral Kang replied grimly. 12,000 ships from their core worlds, plus auxiliary forces from their subject species. They know that if they lose here, their empire will crumble. Ji-hai stood beside Hyunwoo, no longer pretending to be a normal Earth student. She wore the uniform of the Kepler Colonial Guard and carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "The other colonies are ready," she reported. "New Terra, Haven, the mining worlds, even the deep ice stations. Every human settlement is contributing what they can." "How many people are we talking about?" Hyunwoo asked. Admiral Kang smiled for the first time since he had met her. 40 million humans across 200 worlds. We have been growing and preparing for 3,000 years, Guardian. Today the galaxy learns we never surrendered. The armor projected a communication interface, allowing Hyunwoo to address the entire fleet. He thought about Mrs. Lee's thrift shop, about his cousin Raewon hiding in Seoul's subway tunnels, about all the ordinary people whose lives had been changed by forces beyond their control. "This is Guardian Hyunwoo," he said. His voice carried to thousands of ships. "I am 17 years old. 4 days ago, I was a high school student buying a jacket at a thrift store. Today, I wear the armor of Marcus Chen, the greatest warrior in human history." He paused, feeling the weight of 3,000 years of human struggle and determination. "I am not Marcus Chen. I am not a trained soldier or a great leader. But I am human, and that means I will never surrender, never give up, and never abandon those who depend on me. Today we fight not just for our freedom, but for the freedom of every species in this galaxy." The response was immediate. Thousands of voices from dozens of species, all united in their determination to end the hegemony's reign of terror. "All ships," Admiral Kang commanded, "begin the attack." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships, advanced by centuries of secret development, led formations of alien allies against the massed might of the hegemony fleet. Hyunwoo fought from the flagship's bridge, the armor allowing him to coordinate tactics across the entire battlefield. He could see through the sensors of every human ship, process tactical data from 100 battles simultaneously, and guide strategy with the combined wisdom of Marcus Chen's memories and his own intuitive understanding. "Guardian," Ji-hai called out, monitoring enemy communications. "The hegemony is trying to retreat. They are pulling back their command ships." "No," Hyunwoo said, the armor showing him the enemy's true intentions. "They are not retreating. They are repositioning for a final strike at Earth itself." Admiral Kang confirmed his analysis. "Planet-killer weapons. If they cannot defeat us in battle, they will destroy Earth as an example to the rest of the galaxy." The armor's systems went into overdrive, calculating trajectories and defensive patterns. "How long do we have?" Hyunwoo asked. 6 minutes, came the reply. Hyunwoo made a decision that would have seemed impossible just days before. "Admiral, order all human ships to form a defensive wall around Earth. Have the collective fleets continue their attack on the main enemy force." "Guardian, that will leave us outnumbered 5-1, Admiral Kang protested. "Trust me," Hyunwoo said. The armor was showing him possibilities that even Marcus Chen had never imagined. "The armor has one more secret, something that has been waiting 3,000 years to be used." He activated the armor's deepest systems, protocols that had been sealed since Marcus Chen's final battle. The armor began to glow with new colors, and energy patterns spread across the flagship's hull. "What is happening?" Ji-hai asked, watching her instruments spike into the red. "The armor is not just a weapon or a communication device," Hyunwoo explained. "It is a key to technology that humanity developed during the original liberation wars but never had the chance to use." The flagship began to transform. Hull plates shifted, revealing weapons that had been hidden for millennia. Energy conduits spread like veins across the ship's surface, connecting it to the armor's power source. "All human ships are reporting similar changes," Admiral Kang said in amazement. "Guardian, what have you done?" "I have activated humanity's true legacy," Hyunwoo replied. "Marcus Chen and his generation built more than just ships and weapons. They built a network. Every human vessel, every colony, every piece of technology we have ever created, all connected through quantum links that the armor controls." The transformation spread across the human fleet. Ships that had seemed advanced before now revealed their true capabilities. Weapons that could crack planets, shields that could deflect entire solar flares, engines that could fold space itself. This is why the hegemony was so afraid of humans. Elder Crix's voice came over the communication system from Earth. Not just because you fight well, but because you build things that grow stronger over time. The enemy planet-killer weapons fired, sending beams of energy that could destroy worlds toward Earth. But the transformed human fleet was ready. Hyunwoo raised his hand, and every human ship responded. They formed a perfect geometric pattern, their shields linking together into a barrier that covered the entire planet. The planet-killer beams struck the barrier and simply vanished, absorbed and redirected harmlessly into space. Impossible, came panicked transmissions from the hegemony fleet. Nothing is impossible for humanity, Hyunwoo replied, broadcasting on all frequencies. We are the species that refuses to accept defeat. We are the ones who find a way when there is no way, and today we reclaim our place among the stars. The battle turned in minutes. Faced with technology they could not understand or counter, the hegemony fleet began to surrender en masse. Their subject species switched sides, joining the collective in celebrating their liberation. As the last enemy ships powered down their weapons, Hyunwoo felt the armor's systems returning to normal levels. The crisis was over, but he knew this was just the beginning. Admiral Kang, he said, send messages to every world in the galaxy. Tell them that the second liberation has begun. Any species that wants freedom is welcome to join us. And the hegemony leadership? Admiral Kang asked. Hyunwoo thought about Marcus Chen's memories, about the cost of the first liberation wars. Offer them the same choice we offer everyone. Freedom and cooperation or isolation on their homeworlds. No more conquest, no more oppression. 6 months later, Hyunwoo sat in Mrs. Lee's thrift store, wearing ordinary clothes and helping her sort through donations. The armor was safely stored in a special facility, ready to be used if needed but no longer required for daily wear. The galaxy had changed. The hegemony had collapsed, replaced by a new galactic council where every species had an equal voice. Human colonies were no longer hidden, and Earth had become the center of a new age of exploration and cooperation. Any regrets? Mrs. Lee asked, looking up from her work. She had learned the truth about the jacket she had sold, but she still treated Hyunwoo like the teenager he was. Hyunwoo smiled and shook his head. No regrets, just hope for the future. Outside, construction crews were building Earth's first public spaceport. Soon humans would travel freely between the stars, taking their place in the galactic community they had helped to create. The age of hiding was over. The age of humanity had begun.